With orcs on the march and Sauron, Charlie Vickers, actively sabotaging safe passage into a region, a dark shadow hangs over this week's episode of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 2. Between the morning ants that Arondir Ismael Cruz Cordova encounters north of Pelargir and the Barrow Wights that ambush Elrond's Robert Aramayo Company, ominous signs of coming conflict hang in the air for Prime Video's premiere fantasy series, but as always, relief from Middle-earth's darkest forces can be found among some of its smallest inhabitants. After being separated from both their pursuers and the stranger Daniel Wayman, in last week's Sandstorm, Season 2, Episode 4 of The Rings of Power, Eldest, sees its Harfoots plunge deeper into Run, coming across some distant relatives who just might help viewers finally unearth the stranger's true identity. Ever since the stranger fell out of the sky in the series' very first episode, audiences have been clamoring for confirmation about which magical Middle-earth being Wayman is really playing. While the Season 1 finale confirmed the stranger is, in fact, an Istar, a wizard and Maiar spirit sent by the Valar in Valinor to contribute to the fight against Sauron's second coming, the jury is still out on which one he is, exactly. In strict accordance with traditional Tolkien lore, the stranger would most likely be one of the two blue wizards sent to Middle-earth in the Second Age, though Wayman's ragged appearance and brown robes have also lent credence to the idea that he is a younger version of Radagast the Brown. Yet, with his love of halflings, fellowships, and unexpected journeys, it still seems most likely that the stranger is an untested Gandalf, a fact the Rings of Power seemingly makes light of. This glib moment comes after Nori, Merkella Kavanagh, and Poppy, Megan Richards, stumble across another halfling settlement in the lands of Run populated by Stores, an older race of hobbits that occupy the region's harsh desert landscape by relying on homegrown gardening and intuitive machinery. Seeking sanctuary from the Godrime riders chasing them, the Harfoot adventurers soon find themselves explaining their situation to the Stores community leader, Gundabel Tanya Moody, who is quick to hilariously dismiss Nori's romantic account of their heroic mission. Instead, Gundabel asks about the friend the pair have lost, reacting to conjecture about the stranger's height and species by sardonically calling him a grand elf, which, when said with Gundabel's accent and inflections, sounds suspiciously familiar to the name fans know. While this moment is little more than a brief aside in Episode 4's larger story, the dialogue does tie into the stranger's scenes with the long-awaited Tom Bombadil, Rory Kinnear, in Eldest, as well. During their conversation about wizard staffs in the hermit's cottage, Bombadil asserts that the tools are like names in that the stranger owns his but still needs to earn it, hinting that Wayman's wanderer may soon find himself put to the test. Moreover, with the Stores settlement threatened by the Godrime directly at the end of Eldest, and Gundabel herself developing this familiar moniker for Wayman's stranger, it's likely that Gandalf's name will be given to him by the ancient hobbits, cementing the Grey Wizard's connection to the species in return for saving them from their masked assailants. Before the stranger can hope to safely defeat the Godrime, however, he needs to learn how to control his magic, a task he's been struggling with throughout the first 3 episodes of The Rings of Power Season 2. Between accidentally causing insects to burst out of a tree instead of fruit in Episode 1 and spawning the unruly sandstorm that separated the Harfoot Istar trio in Episode 2, the stranger has consistently been troubled by the magic he can't understand, a trend that only continues in Season 2, Episode 4. As further proof of his likely identity as Gandalf, the stranger's attempts to break off a familiar-looking branch from the tree next to Bombadil's cottage, Old Man Ironwood, result in him being consumed by the tree himself, demonstrating how the Istar still has much to learn of Middle-earth. In a fascinating development, Bombadil's rescuing of the stranger solidifies the enigmatic ancient as a mentor figure for the wizard in training, as the self-proclaimed wanderer subsequently counsels the stranger on asking for gifts from nature before taking them. Upon witnessing Bombadil's power over firsthand and noticing the constellations chalked onto the roof of the ancient's dwelling, the Istar realizes that he was never meant to search for literal stars in Run at all, he was meant to find Bombadil himself. This realization, combined with Bombadil's own challenge to the stranger to prove he can become worthy of his power, puts Wayman's character firmly on the path to improving his abilities, though a teacher is not all that the Rings of Power provides the stranger in a season already dominated by the